change up your houseplant routine. Find yourself a good humidifier. This one is a 60-watt bulb. Drain that out. They go into a dormant phase. Is that if you are comfortable, your houseplants will be too. Hi there, welcome to today's video. If you are new to my channel, my name is Rachel and I run my own small houseplant business here in Auckland, New Zealand called Growing Green. Check out my website www.growinggreen.nz if you are in New Zealand. Thank you for joining me here today. I make videos all about houseplants, so if you are a crazy houseplant lover like me, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. I make content all about product tutorials, houseplant tutorials, and also week in my life vlog style videos about behind the scenes of my business. If you are a returning subscriber, thank you so much for joining me again. I really appreciate you, and welcome to today's video. I know this video might also be a little bit confusing for some people because those in the northern hemisphere are just going into summer, but here in the southern hemisphere we are coming into winter. And for those of you who have never had a winter with houseplants before, hopefully you will know by now, but if you didn't, you need to change up your houseplant routine. You cannot keep looking after your houseplants the same in winter as you have been over the summer months. You need to change up your routine dramatically, and I mean dramatically. This video is going to be a full and complete tutorial on how to look after your houseplants over winter. We're going to be covering so many topics, including watering, humidity, lighting, temperature, and repotting. Make sure to grab yourself a drink, a hot cup of tea if you're in New Zealand, or something nice and cold if you're in the northern hemisphere, and settle down because this is going to be a jam-packed video. This is my second winter now as a houseplant parent, and I can tell you that I am far more prepared for this season than I was for last season, and I will be giving you all those tips and tricks today, so make sure to watch all the way to the end. Let's get straight into the video. First of all, I'm going to give you a little bit of a general overview on houseplants during winter. As I already said, you need to switch up your routine from summer because obviously it's much colder and you have to look after your houseplants more and also less at the same time. So some things you'll need to increase and some things you'll need to decrease, which can be a little bit confusing. So if you want to take a pen and paper and jot some of this down, make sure to do that. And as you may or may not know, winter is actually a dormant time of year for houseplants. And by dormant, I don't mean completely dying back to nothing into the ground like bulbs do. By dormant, I mean they just don't grow as much and they don't need as much energy to grow either. You'll kind of notice that your houseplants start to slow down. You'll be wondering, why are they not growing anymore? That's because they have hit the winter season, and yeah, a lot of plants will basically just stop growing during the winter season, and that's perfectly normal, so don't be alarmed by that at all. So one of the first topics about houseplant care in winter that I'm going to cover is watering. Now, watering is probably one of the biggest things that you need to switch up during winter because root rot is a major issue during winter, especially if you're already an overwaterer. It can become even more of an issue during winter. So tip number one, you need to dramatically decrease the amount that you are watering your houseplants. Start by halving how much you're watering your houseplants, because as you know, in winter it doesn't evaporate as quickly and the water tends to sit in the soil for longer, which in turn causes root rot. So start by halving your watering routine. Tip number two is to remember that every houseplant will require different watering needs. This goes the same for every season. It's no different to winter, summer, spring, autumn, whatever. They will all have different watering requirements. So I definitely recommend checking that your plant actually does need watering, because not all plants need watering at exactly the same time. Stick your finger in the pot and see if it actually needs watering, or pop them in a clear pot like this one here, and you'll have a much easier time telling when they need to be watered. Tip number three. Now this tip is probably just as important as reducing your watering during winter. These two kind of go hand in hand, and that is to make sure that your plant is not sitting in water. Now when we water our houseplants, we normally water them inside the cover pot, which means that all the water that drains down to the bottom of the pot will be sitting in the bottom here. Now in summer that's generally fine. I would still recommend checking it every now and then because it does obviously contribute to root rot. But in winter, it is basically a killer for your plants. So every time you water them, make sure to empty your cover pot. As you can see here, the water has been dripping out the bottom of this pot, and then in the bottom there, you can see there is a whole lot of water. So make sure to drain that out and check on that every couple of hours after you watered your plant to make sure that they are not sitting in any water, because that is definitely a root rot magnet. Number four, make sure to stop watering your cacti. As you already know, cacti don't like much water, so during winter I absolutely urge you to stop watering your cacti. They will be fine, don't even worry about them, set them and forget them, because if you water them they will probably just rot from the base and it's just a nightmare. So don't water your cacti. So the next thing I want to talk to you about when it comes to houseplants in winter is humidity. As you can see behind me, I have a big automated system in my greenhouse which pumps out the humidity, which is on a timer, which is fantastic, which means I don't have to do anything at all. All these sensors behind me will pick up the humidity and it will just start pumping it out. But obviously inside for normal houseplants, it can be a little bit different. So here are my top tips when it comes to humidity. So as we know, the air in winter is much drier. That's because cold air doesn't hold on to as much moisture as warm air does. Our houseplants normally prefer a humidity of around 40%, probably even 50% or higher. It's obviously just because of the tropical backgrounds a lot of them come from, so it's important to keep the humidity up during winter. First tip I have for you, of course, is obviously to find yourself a good humidifier. Now do your research on these because some of them are fairly average and have really high price tags, but you can get some very nice ones that are very cheaply priced. So do your research on a humidifier, but I 100% recommend getting yourself one for winter. Now tip number 2 is to cluster all of your plants together. As you may or may not know, our plants naturally release water through their leaves called transpiring, and it will put that transpiration to good use. It is getting foggy in here. When I tell you that my greenhouse humidifier does a great job, it does a great job. But moving on to my next tip, unless you're misting them with something like Oxygen Plus, or whether it's with neem oil or something along those lines to actually help your plant, misting your plants with just water is more fun for you as a plant parent than it is beneficial for your plants. It does last a short while, but it's really not long enough to make much of a difference. You're better off getting yourself a humidifier and clumping your plants all together. My final tip when it comes to humidity, make sure to keep your houseplants out of any kind of drafts like heat pumps, because the air coming out of those heat pumps is dry and nasty and it will damage your plants and your plants will absolutely hate it. Is this humid enough yet? Think we're good? Alright, while we wait for that humidity to clear, the next topic I'm going to be talking about is lighting. Now I think lighting is probably maybe equal to humidity when it comes to caring for your houseplants in winter, but I would definitely probably make it more of a priority because obviously houseplants love light. As you all know, during winter the sun is lower, so we will get less light into our homes, so obviously we need some kind of way of compensating for that. Tip number 1, make sure to move your plants towards the light. Don't put them too close to windows though, because as you'll find out later in temperature, they can be a little bit chilly on winter mornings, so make sure to move them to a spot in your house that's brighter. If it's already bright enough, you can leave them exactly where they are. Number 2, as you can see behind me, I have turned on a grow light. Now grow lights are such an amazing thing to have during winter. If you don't know what grow lights are, I have made a video all about them as well. Make sure to go check that out in the description box down below. I'll pop the link down there for you. I can honestly not vouch for grow lights enough. They're designed to mimic the sun's rays closer than any other bulbs, and if you give your plants one during winter, they will absolutely love you for it, and they may even keep growing for you. So make sure to grab yourself a grow light. As you can see, this one above my head here, this one is a 60-watt bulb and it lights up almost the entire greenhouse. I've even seen people who have like replaced their normal lights with them. So make sure to pick yourself up a grow light. If you're in New Zealand, I hope to have them up on my website by now. Go and check them out. They may or may not be up already, but if you're overseas, I do believe that Amazon is a really great place to find them. My next tip when it comes to lighting is sort of to do with plants, but sort of not, but that is to make sure to wash your windows. As we all know, our windows on the outside of our house can be very dirty. So if you have a window that is just kind of not getting enough light, by washing your windows and getting all that dirt off your window, you will also be helping more light to come in through the windows. How many times can you say window in one video? A bonus tip on top of that is to make sure to clean the leaves of your plants. I cannot emphasize how important this is. This is probably like the second most important tip in this category, whether that just be with a soft cloth and water, or whether you wipe them down with neem oil like I do to also get my pest prevention in at the same time. Please wipe the leaves of your plants. Make sure to check them at least once a week and give them a wipe down. If they're dirty, yes, it is quite the chore, but it will help them a lot because as we know, plants photosynthesize through their leaves, and they cannot photosynthesize if their leaves are dirty and covered in dust. So wipe your leaves. So one of the next topics I wanted to quickly touch on before we move on was fertilizing. As I've already said in this video, as we know, plants go through a sort of a semi-dormant phase during winter, which means that they do slow down their growing. They don't go dormant like a bulb that completely dies away or some alocasia. They just kind of go through a phase where they store their energy so that they can continue growing hardcore into the spring. There's a lot of different opinions on fertilizing over the winter, but personally I like to continue my fertilizing routine, but again, like like watering, I just kind of like to half it, just because when they're going through the dormant phase they don't use as many nutrients. But I would definitely keep up that routine, because it's like us, we need feeding all year round, right? So you gotta keep feeding your houseplants year round too. Now when it comes to picking the fertilizer that you should actually use during winter, I recommend using one like this. Now this is called Growth Technology. It's actually new to my website. Hopefully it's already out by now. Make sure to go and check it out in the description box down below. It is a complete fertilizer, which means it's got absolutely everything your plant needs. Now this fertilizer is actually free of urea, I'm not quite sure how that is pronounced, and chlorides, which is the thing in fertilizers that actually burn your houseplants. You know, when you over fertilize them and you find the roots get all burnt and stuff and your plants actually die. That is called fertilizer burn, but this one is free of urea and chlorides, so this one is totally safe to use all year round. I would just recommend probably like halving the dose, obviously like I said, because they don't use as many nutrients in winter. So yeah, definitely keep fertilizing your houseplants, just make sure to pick the right fertilizer. And then once spring rolls around and you see a whole bunch of new growth, you can just revert back to your normal fertilizer routine using whatever fertilizer you have on the shelf. The next topic we're going to be talking about is repotting. It's pretty much exactly the same with fertilizing. If you have not stopped repotting plants by now, you need to stop repotting your plants. Like I have already said, they have gone dormant, which means they do not have any energy anymore to focus on adjusting to a new pot or a new substrate, so stop repotting your plants. If you continue to repot your plants and you don't keep them in the right conditions, as in it's very cold or drafty or dry or anything like that, all you're going to do is cause them shock, and this will kill your plants very quickly. It's exactly the same with any kind of propagations that you have going on, and if you do have any propagations that are growing at the moment and you think, oops, those were a little bit late, make sure to grab yourself a propagation box and a heat mat, and make sure to keep them nice and warm over winter, as again, if they get too much shock during winter due to the temperature differences, they will just die. So make sure to look after those propagations. So the next thing I wanted to talk about was temperature. As we know, obviously in winter it gets cooler, so the general rule of thumb with houseplants is that if you are comfortable, your houseplants will be too. Make sure to avoid large fluctuations in temperature. Like I said, keep them away from heat pumps that are pumping out all that hot air, hot dry air, because your plants will not love that. Try to make sure that the room that you're in stays kind of a comfortable temperature. A tip that I have for you is to put a humidity / temperature sensor somewhere in your house to make sure that the temperature fluctuations does stay the same. As you can see, I have this one here, and it is a very cozy 21 degrees in here and 63% humidity. And the longer you have one of these in your house, the more you will get to know kind of the temperature and the humidity in your house. Another huge tip that I have is to make sure to keep your houseplants away from big sources of heat, such as heaters, fireplaces, ovens, anything like that. Make sure to keep them well away from them. Now this looks a little bit hypocritical, but this is an electric fire and the heat only comes out the front. There's no like radiative heat upwards or outwards, so they're totally safe here. But if you have a normal fireplace, make sure to keep your plants well away from them, because they're just going to do your plants no good. Another source of heat that you should keep your house plants away from is candles. As you can see, this candle is very close to my calathea. I'm just going to move this over here a little bit. So that is all for today's video. I really hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you learned something. I hope it was helpful. If it was, make sure to hit that thumbs up button down below. That really helps out my channel and lets me know what kind of content you guys like to see. If you have any other questions, make sure to put them on the comment section down below also, and I will try to answer as many of them as possible. And yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!